So I'll start the recording. Okay, you're ready.
Great. Good morning to all of you in Europe and in Hong Kong. Welcome to our webinar about Hong Kong as a sourcing hub. I'm Paula Kant. I'm the head of Invest Hong Kong in Brussels. Firstly, a thank you to the organizers of this webinar, my Invest Hong Kong colleagues, the Hong Kong ETO, and several supporting organizations that really deserve a mention. The German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Netherlands Hong Kong Business Association, the Belgian Hong Kong Society, Casa Asia from Spain, the Portuguese Hong Kong Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and AJEPS, the Association of Young Entrepreneurs Portugal, China, and all our colleagues from Hong Kong. Before we let the first speaker start, a couple of house rules. Firstly, please write down your questions, remember them, ask them during the Q&A, which will start around 10 past 11, quarter past 11. You're asked to then use the hand icon at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. Then we will unmute you and you can tell us your name and ask your question. That way we have a very lively Q&A, hopefully. Secondly, this whole session will be recorded. I just want to inform you about that for GDPR purposes. So whatever you say will be recorded for others to play back later. We will send you after the session, all those who have signed up, a link to the recording as well as a PDF of all the presentations. This morning, just before we started the session, we had 173 sign-ups. So once more, welcome to all of you. Then now, without further ado, I would like to give the word to Ms. Fiona Chow. As you can see here, she is the Deputy Representative at the Hong Kong ETO here in Brussels. Fiona actually has also previously worked in the Hong Kong ETO in Washington, D.C. She has worked at the office of the Hong Kong government in Beijing, and she has had several posts in the Hong Kong government back at head office in Hong Kong. So a very well prepared woman. And Fiona, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paula. Good morning from Brussels and good afternoon to friends watching this from Hong Kong. To kickstart this webinar, I would like to highlight a few important fundamentals of Hong Kong that enable the city to offer you with the most convenient, efficient, and reliable service in modern-day sourcing. So first and foremost, knowing your suppliers and buyers are important in global sourcing. On this, Hong Kong has a very unique advantage as it is strategically located at the heart of Asia, the world's fastest growing region, contributing some 60% to the world's GDP growth. Asia is also home to a rising middle class with strong purchasing power. The World Bank estimated that by 2030, 2/3 of the world's middle class will come from Asia, so presenting huge potential and business opportunities for all of us. Next slide, please. Efficiency is important for global sourcing. To this end, Hong Kong's world-class transportation infrastructure and highly efficient logistics network are keys to support Hong Kong as a prime sourcing hub. Hong Kong International Airport is the world's busiest international air cargo airport, with throughput totaling 4.8 million tons in 2019. The airport hosts over 120 airlines, over more than 1,100 flights daily to over 200 destinations worldwide, including 50 destinations in mainland China. With a highly efficient airport, Hong Kong is within a 4-hour flight from Asia's key markets and a 5-hour flight from half of the world's populations. With the competitive advantage such as free port status, efficient customs and well-established port infrastructure, Hong Kong Port is one of the world's busiest and most efficient ports. Every week, about 300 container vessel sailings connect to around 420 destinations worldwide. The extensive liner service coverage underpins Hong Kong's position as an international maritime center. We never stop to improve our infrastructure to enhance our connectivity. The third runway of the Hong Kong International Airport is expected to come into operation by the end of 2024. On full commissioning of the 3-runway system, the Hong Kong International Airport will have the capacity to handle over 100 million passengers and around 9 million tons of cargo annually. The commissionings of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen Hong Kong Express Rail Link and the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge has made Hong Kong even more swiftly connected to cities and provinces in mainland China. Next slide, please. Adding to the value of your prime sourcing through Hong Kong is the strong presence of a rich pool of world-class talents and professionals in a wide range of disciplines, including risk assessment and management, legal services, consultancy, project management, and many more. Moreover, Hong Kong's uniqueness and competitiveness also come from its open and efficient market, its business-friendly environment with the use of multiple languages. The legal tender of Hong Kong dollar is fully convertible. We also are faithful of capitals, talents, and goods, and a robust regulatory regime to protect intellectual property rights. Hong Kong is also well known for its low and simple tax regime. Corporate tax rate for all companies in Hong Kong is only 8.25% for the first Hong Kong dollar 2 million profit, and thereafter only 60.5%, and salary tax is capped at 15%. Hong Kong also provides a level playing field for all business, whether they are local or foreign business, to compete on equal footing. Hong Kong is also free to conduct its external affairs to pursue our own economic and trade interests in international arena. As a separate custom territories, as illustrated by the fact that Hong Kong is the founding members and independent members of the World Trade Organization, we are able to enter free trade agreements with our trading partners. We also enter investment promotion and protection agreements and comprehensive avoidance of double taxation agreement with our major trading partners, which give additional assurance to local and foreign business and investors operate in Hong Kong and provide more business opportunities in terms of opening up more new markets. You can enjoy all these advantages if your operation is based in Hong Kong or if you partner with Hong Kong companies. Next slide, please. Lastly, I would like to update you about the COVID-19 epidemic situation in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is one of the few places in the world which had successfully contained COVID-19 in the first half of this year. Up to end June, Hong Kong only had some 1,200 confirmed cases and 7 deaths. Hong Kong did not record any local cases for 21 days in a row in June. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has proved to be a tough and long-drawn battle as many parts of the world are seeing the resurgence of the coronavirus infections in summer. Hong Kong also experienced a third wave of outbreak seen early July. With the support from all sectors and the strengthened social distancing measures implemented over the last 2 months or so, the epidemic situation in Hong Kong has been brought under control gradually seen early this month. Although the pandemic has dealt a serious and unprecedented blow to the global economy, the financial systems of Hong Kong has continued to function well and has demonstrated a high degree of resilience. We nevertheless note that the epidemic has caused serious disruption to other economic activities, particularly those involving more frequent people contacts. With our strong fiscal reserve, which amounted to 1.1 trillion Hong Kong dollars in end March this year, Hong Kong government is able to roll out swiftly relief measures to support enterprises, safeguard jobs, and relieve people's financial burden. Yesterday, the Hong Kong government announced that it will launch another round of relief measures amounted to around 24 billion Hong Kong dollar. Hence, the total amount of funding support will increase from 287.5 billion Hong Kong dollar to over 310 billion Hong Kong dollars, which is equivalent to about $40 billion. During the past 8 months or so, we have seen that epidemic has highlighted the importance of developing and promoting technology application. On this, Hong Kong has a very solid foundation, as the city is a leading digital economy with one of the most sophisticated telecommunication infrastructure in the world. So to facilitate more companies in Hong Kong, particularly the small medium enterprises, to prepare for the economic development and business transformation under the new normal amid COVID-19, the Hong Kong government has launched the Distance Business Program to provide funding support for enterprises to speed up the applications of technology in their operation. Next slide, please. As an open economy, we know that one of the keys for economic recovery is to resume more cross-boundary and international travels for business and tourism as soon as circumstances permit. In this regard, Hong Kong government has started exploring with some of our major trading partners, including the European Union, the possibility of establishing travel bubbles arrangement with Hong Kong. Ladies and gentlemen, Hong Kong's strong fundamentals, the resilience of our society to cope with the new challenges, as well as the city's forward-looking attitude to grasp fresh opportunity, will help Hong Kong bounce back very soon. We hope to welcome you in Hong Kong soon. Thank you, and I now hand over to Paula.
Thank you very much, Fiona, and happy to hear there are talks about making it possible for foreign visitors to come again. Our client companies will be welcoming that as soon as it is going to be possible. Thanks, Fiona. Then now we go to the next speaker, Mr. Anson Bailey, partner, head of technology, KPMG Hong Kong, as well as head of consumer and retail, KPMG China. Anson is going to take us through the report that is almost finished, a report about Hong Kong as a sourcing hub in 2020, how Hong Kong grew to have this very prominent position, and how Hong Kong will try and maintain and further expand this position in the future. Anson, I think this is over to you. Anson, are you with us? Can you?
Yes, Paula.
Okay, I hear there was a challenge with the, oh, I see you even. Anson, the floor is yours entirely. Happy that it's sorted.
Thank you, Paula. That's what happens with technology. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Great to be with you at this Invest Hong Kong webinar. My name's Anson Bailey. I head up consumer and retail at KPMG across Asia Pacific. And I'm delighted to be with you this afternoon and or this morning to share some insights from a soon to be released report looking at the future of sourcing that was actually commissioned by the Invest Hong Kong team. And it's been a very interesting year, 2020. We've seen a lot of black swans over the course of the last several months. But I have to say that, of course, with all the challenges, there also come a great deal of opportunities emerging as well. And that's what we wanted to share with you today, because we've been having a lot of in-depth discussions with a large number of senior executives about their thoughts around that question around the future of sourcing, leading to the future of Hong Kong. And so we wanted to just share with all of you some of those insights. So if I can move to the next slide, thanks, Lisa. So some of the key messages I really wanted to share with everybody for all of us to think about. Obviously, there's been a significant impact, an economic impact of COVID-19, and that's impacted the entire supply chain across the world, and it will continue to impact us for some time to come. But I think what's happened is it suddenly pointed out to a lot of corporates that they now need to digitize across their supply chains. So we've actually seen this acceleration of digital, and it's probably accelerated things by at least 5 or 6 years. Another point of view is, of course, where is the next Hong Kong? Well, simply stated, we're never going to see another Hong Kong emerge in this new era of digitization. And we have to prepare for, prepare for this new digital era as well, where we can operate in this seamless global marketplace. Also, what have we learned from those various conversations? Certainly that organizations now need to leverage a lot of this new digital technology. They need to be, of course, following those changing consumer behaviors, following those consumer spending patterns. They need more precise consumption patterns, and that comes through, of course, the use of data analytics. Now, the interesting thing, of course, is we hear a lot about the demise of Hong Kong. We hear a lot about the US-China trade wars. But I would say to everybody right now that the globalization of supply chains actually see Hong Kong survive and thrive. But of course, all of us need to be far more agile as we serve those future digital supply chains. And in fact, one thing I would say to everybody today is that Hong Kong increasingly will become this new digital supply chain services hub for the future, with the likes of data analytics, AI, machine learning, automation, and all the new breakthroughs in 3D technologies, the body scanners, the virtual sampling. They're all taking place right now, right here in Hong Kong. And my final point about the key findings would also be around talent development and upskilling. One of the things that a lot of those senior executives said to me was that the fact that Hong Kong is still very much at the center of their sourcing plans. And one of the key reasons there is that international mindset. Hong Kong has been a trading hub for decades. And I think it's fair to say that Hong Kong will continue to be this new digital supply chain services hub because of its people as well. And I think upskilling is very critical. We are absolutely going to see more of that in the months ahead. So that's important. So I just wanted to share those key findings. If we move to the next slide, thank you. I'm going to go through this presentation super quickly. And happy to share these with you, these slides, and equally we'll certainly be sharing the report with you in the near future when it is completed. But again, Hong Kong's going to continue to be a hub for those traditional businesses. They are not going to go away. And if we move to the next slide, one of the things I would say to everybody, of course, is that we're now seeing this new diverse ecosystem of startups emerge over the last 4 to 5 years. We've been tracking this very, very carefully. And we've also been involved in things like the Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival, looking at a lot of those startups across the ecosystem. And if we move to the next slide as well, thank you. One thing I was about to say, of course, is Hong Kong. We often hear about Hong Kong being a super connector. Well, it truly is extremely well connected to areas such as the Greater Bay Area. And certainly a lot of my clients across the consumer and retail world, they're now looking at this in far more detail to understand how can Hong Kong support their developments across that Greater Bay Area, which is, again, it's a 10x. If you look at population size, we are going to see significant opportunities across that Greater Bay Area. But it's not just the Greater Bay Area that is interesting. If you look at Hong Kong and that geographical position, it's right in the center of not just the GBA, but also ASEAN. And on the next slide, again, a key message for all of us is that Hong Kong is also acting as a gateway to ASEAN. And I just want to make a point here is that we hear about the diversification of companies that are moving manufacturing from mainland China. I have to say, there's a lot of sensational news stories out there about not just about the demise of Hong Kong, but the demise of Chinese manufacturing. Quite frankly, that is a nonsense. And what I would say to you is that a lot of companies, a lot of my clients, they've already been diversifying for the last several years. This is not something new. So what we are seeing is, yes, we're seeing areas such as Vietnam and Cambodia and the rest of ASEAN become a manufacturing base as well. But I would say the great thing about Hong Kong is we can also act as not just a gateway to, of course, mainland China and the GBA, but we can also act as that gateway to ASEAN. And with our workforce here, we can move them around the ASEAN region with ease. So again, I think we've got to look at the big picture. And again, please don't get carried away with all of those headlines that we see every day. Now, if we move again to the next slide, I just want to again say that Hong Kong is still going to be the heart of the end-to-end supply chains. So again, Hong Kong is not going anywhere. And in fact, if you look at this world WTO statistics, look at the 2009, 10 years later, 2019, and Hong Kong has moved up the value chain. So again, I would say to all of us that, again, we need to take a step back. We do need to make sure we get good advice, and we do need to look at the complexities of our supply chains, because of course nowadays you need to think not just about the manufacturing in mainland China, you've also got to think about the manufacturing across the rest of the region and in places like ASEAN. And that's why, as I said, I think Hong Kong is going to remain an important supply chain and sourcing hub for the years to come. If we just move on to the next slide, Fiona's already kind of mentioned about the taxation strengths of Hong Kong. I think also about the legal strengths. But I think it's important to note out that Hong Kong signed these comprehensive double taxation agreements with 44 different jurisdictions. So again, I think that's an important note for all of us. And if we just move to the next slide as well, something for me that I've seen emerge in the last 3 or 4 years is that Hong Kong today is really becoming this growing hub for tech and innovation. I mentioned all of the technologies around 3D, around the virtual sampling, the VR, the AR, there's some really interesting things that are happening in Hong Kong today. And it's also fair to say that, of course, we've also got the Silicon Valley of Asia just across from Hong Kong in the form of Shenzhen. So, we certainly hear a lot of our clients that are also coming to Hong Kong, but they're also looking at doing their rapid prototyping in between Hong Kong and places like Shenzhen. So I do think we're going to see more of this emerge in the future. And of course, Hong Kong is famous for being a finance hub. It's famous for being a trading hub. But I do think in the next few years, we are going to see this tech and innovation hub emerge. Now, if we move on to the next slide as well, something that we heard from our clients, of course, is this growing focus on things like ESG, sustainability, and purpose. Again, is something that a lot of corporates are now using more and more. And corporates equally are looking at Hong Kong as a new hub for all of this ESG reporting, the regulatory compliance. And again, the regulators here are paying particular attention to it. I would also say that investors are now looking at more sustainable supply chains. They're watching what the brands and the retailers are doing. And a final point is the consumers absolutely are looking at your value chains. They are looking at you, and are you really walking and living and breathing the values that you are, that you're talking about. So again, I do think that this is a growing area where, again, Hong Kong, I think in the future, is going to become a center for this particular area. Now, as I mentioned, we've spoken to a lot of different people. We hope you're going to check out the report. But one of the groups that we spoke to was the mills and the mills fabrica. And on the next slide, one of the interesting things I just wanted to share with everybody is we are now seeing the, if you like, the re-imaging, the repurposing of some of these old places. And the Mills Fabrica, for me, is a fascinating case because it's one of the old textile mills. You know, when Hong Kong, in the heyday of manufacturing, you know, back in the 50s and 60s, is now being completely repurposed into this new innovation hub for fashion, for design, for product development, material innovation. And we were talking to the Mills Fabrica team about what they're doing. And you can see here, I actually love this graph. And this is something that they put out about 2 weeks ago. There was a new paper looking at reevaluating the apparel value chains. And this is talking about the process, looking at, of course, at digitized production to localized production, looking at how you can optimize inventory management, digitize retail, you know, the supplier brand management, ESG assessment. So there's a lot of things that we need to be thinking about. And I have to say that companies are already here in Hong Kong, they're thinking about all of these things. They're already, I think, ahead of the curve. Now, I've got a couple of minutes left, and I just want to talk a little bit with everybody about, we've talked about kind of the manufacturing, the sourcing, the tech innovation, but also we've really got to have one eye on the consumer. And on the next slide, I think one of the things that we all need to now do is really understand this next generation of consumers, and in particularly the Chinese consumers. And I'd also say, I think also Fiona mentioned, the ASEAN consumers. They are up and coming. Those Chinese consumers are incredibly digitally minded and tech savvy. We've already seen the impact of COVID-19, and online sales have rose by 33.3% year on year. Various online festivals, social retailing, live streaming, contactless. These are all things that are happening now. And it's not just in China, it's across ASEAN. So this is really interesting, I think, for all of us in terms of, yes, we hear a lot about those US consumers and the European consumers, but also let's not forget this huge consumer market here in China and the rest of the region as well. And understanding what they're doing, understanding those changing consumer behaviors are so important. And again, just very quickly on the next couple of slides, I'm going to whiz through this quickly. At KPMG, in fact, this week, we'll be launching a new paper looking at consumers in the new reality, where we have literally done this survey in the last 3 months, 4 months, June, July, August, looking at those changing consumer behaviors around the world. The interesting thing is, we've been looking at the Chinese consumers, and they are at a different level. And I think that's something that we are seeing in terms of increased digital adoption, of course, trust in the brand as a key driver, and also looking at those local brands. Also, if we go to the next slide, I'd say to everybody, we hear a lot about retail. I want to kind of change our thinking a little bit about moving from retail to consumer commerce. You know, and I think that is something that we are going to start to see in the future. And again, the end-to-end supply chains that are really important for all of us. I could continue, in fact, I often do, but the last couple of slides I just want to share with you for the next slide, just want to mention to everybody about smart city developments. This was another report that I did with our team on Future Hong Kong 2030, looking at smart cities, but that also looks at smart manufacturing. It looks at smart mobility, smart logistics. It looks at smart consumers and, of course, smart retail. So we need to be really factoring this into our businesses. And then a final slide, if you please. Really just wanted to share with you, what am I seeing? I'm seeing emerging technologies like AI, blockchain. We talked about the 3D scanners, and that's profoundly going to impact those global supply chains. We're seeing the rise of purpose, ESG and sustainability here in Hong Kong as a center for those professional services, increased transparency from those consumers. We're seeing a shifting focus to those Chinese and ASEAN markets, focused on those digitally minded consumers and those changing consumer behaviors. It is the worst of times, and yet it is the best of times as well, because we are going to see, I think, a lot more experimentation. We're going to see a lot more innovation. And a final point from me is, obviously, we all need to innovate or die. That's a very profound way to end the presentation. And then, as I said, there's lots of reports. So a big thank you to all of you. Feel free to download any of the reports, and I look forward to the questions later on. Paula, back to you.
Thank you very much, Anson, for your enthusiastic presentation. My main takeout is that the only constant is change. And for Hong Kong, how Hong Kong is going to deal with that, right? Keywords are digitization, talent development, but also ESG, sustainability, and purpose. Which brings us to our next speaker, Ms. Angelica Liang, Head of Consumer Products, one of the sector teams of Invest Hong Kong in Hong Kong. Angelica is an expert in many sectors. I would highlight personal care cosmetics, but also the go-to woman if you want to open your sourcing office in Hong Kong. Over to you, Angelica.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Paula. So we've heard from Anson about why Hong Kong. Now I want to go and talk a little bit more how you can come here and benefit from all the advantages of a sourcing office in Hong Kong can give you. So our team has been helping sourcing company and retail companies to set up in Hong Kong. In the next 10 minutes, I'd like to go through a little bit, maybe in greater depth, what Anson has just mentioned, and also share some case examples and how we can assist you to set up a sourcing office here. Next slide, Lisa, please. Just a little bit about Invest Hong Kong. We are a free of charge service offered by the Hong Kong government to assist overseas companies to set up and grow in Hong Kong. As you can see, we have many offices overseas, and just easy to remember, at the moment we don't service the North and South Pole, but we do service everywhere else at the moment. Okay, next slide. So a little bit more on what Anson and Fiona are saying about why Hong Kong. So the geographical location, what it means to you is really easy access to manufacturing hubs, ports, air cargo facilities, a cluster of regional buying offices. As Anson mentioned, we've been doing trading for decades. I would say we've been doing trading for the last 100 years. And we've built up so much expertise and talent in Hong Kong, and even education, universities, and there's a lot of private enterprises who are offering very specialized courses in sourcing, in fabric, in textile science, and things like that. For service, I'd like to mention a little bit about the finance. We have multi-currency bank accounts and trade finance specialists in Hong Kong who are very helpful for sourcing offices. We also have free flow capital. Communication. it's really important to know that in the Greater China region, Hong Kong is the only city that offers both English and Chinese as official languages. That means when you are signing a contract, you can use English as the medium for your contracts and agreements. And our laws are based on the English common law. And when we're talking about access to innovation, it's a synergy effect, also as Anson mentioned. The road and ferry transport to South China is amazing. And also many of the factories are still owned by Hong Kong business people, but with the operations both in Hong Kong and across the border. Next slide, please. So each year the government surveys companies which have overseas headquarters. Anson showed you a quick slide. Just like to go through it in a little bit more detail. Yep, so the first one, the full word should be import, export, trade, wholesale, and retail functions. Sourcing operations would fall under this bar, and there's about 4,000 companies in the RHQ, regional office or local offices that are engaged in this function. And most of the regional headquarters in Hong Kong are covering mainland China, Singapore, Taiwan, Korea, and Japan operations from a base in Hong Kong. So we support companies of all sizes. So many of these would start out small and then gradually grow, maybe starting from a regional office and growing to a regional headquarters. And we also have a selection of global headquarters in Hong Kong as well. Yeah, next slide. The next one as well. So of course you want to know who's here. So we've selected some of the department stores who are sourcing from Hong Kong. So how we help company here is you can see the location of sourcing offices column. There's actually a cluster effect. I know Hong Kong is quite small, but there's still cluster districts where many of the sourcing offices are located. So one of the things we help companies is when you set up in Hong Kong, we would arrange a service provider for you, such as a property agent, and we would bring you around to look at offices of different sizes, what's suitable for you, what's your budget. So this is really practical advice. And of course, we also provide advice on specialist sourcing agencies, what are things of the salary indexes, what benefits to offer your staff, you know, things like that. So the next slide, I'd like to show you who else is here in the apparel, toys, and hypermarket space. And you see, we do have a very good range, and this is by no means an exclusive list. There's hundreds more, but we just don't have enough space on the slide to put everyone here. But because of the large cluster, it means that Hong Kong is also a location that many sourcing events take place. We'll be hearing from the Trade Development Council later, but also, for example, those of you who are attending Pi Apparel today, thanks for taking some time to join us here as well. And then we also mentioned a little bit about research centers. So there's a research center in Hong Kong that focuses on textiles and apparel, and like things like denim washing with a little bit less water, you know, maybe using lasers with your textiles, garment to garment recycling. And some of these projects are funded up to an amount of 1 million euros. So it's a very sizable government funded organization. And you can discuss with them how much of the IP you want to host. And they have wide range of funding options, but this is something for another talk. Just let us know if you want to explore more. So as we mentioned, Asia is not only a manufacturing hub, it's also a huge consumer market. So a lot of the brands that we're seeing now are not only sourcing from Asia, but they're sourcing from Asia to sell to Asia. And that means you have a lot more flexibility and a lot more agility in adapting your products to the Asian market. Okay, next slide. This one we've seen in previous mentioned by Fiona and Anson, but I'd like to mention case studies that because of our free port status, some companies are using Hong Kong and Hong Kong logistic facilities as a pick and pack for store level shipments, which means from all your suppliers regionally, your products can be consolidated in Hong Kong, and then using pick and pack functions, requirement to a store level, then it gets sent out again to your stores all over the world. So that's one way that you can use the logistics capabilities of Hong Kong. Okay, next slide. Yeah, so this slide talks a little bit more about the Greater Bay Area and showing the connectivity of goods. We're talking about a 1 to 2 hour travel circle, and you'll be reaching really literally thousands of factories in this area. Next slide. So one of the initiatives of the both sides customs departments is this e-lock, which means at 52 clearance points, they're using technology to make sure, so when your goods are locked on one end of the supply chain, they don't need to be opened again at the other clearance point. So this is facilitating the movement of goods between the Greater Bay Area and Hong Kong. Okay. Next slide. Yeah, next one. Okay, so this needs to be, we would happy to go through these market entry models with you one by one on an individual basis. Just like to highlight their 4 general ones you can consider, and each of them has their pros and cons. So the first one would be a direct entry model, meaning the whole operations is under your own company with your own staff. There's the outsourced model. Next slide. And also showroom sales and marketing model. And the final one on e-commerce means if you're already a sourcing office, maybe without a retail physical store in Asia, you might want to go jump directly into e-commerce and do something direct to consumer from a base in Hong Kong. Next slide. Yeah, next one. So how do we help companies? I'd like to reiterate, we are a free service again, and we're very friendly, and we've assisted many, many companies. So we could help in 4 stages, right from the planning stage when you're still thinking about where in Asia you want to go. We will be able to highlight the special advantages of being in Hong Kong in greater detail. When you want to set up, we can offer very practical advice on maybe visa applications, how to choose your location, how to hire, networking, visa and schooling. When you launch, if you'd like some PR support, we can also do that. And then the final stages to help you grow and stay happy in Hong Kong. Thank you. Paula, back to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Angelica. Good to hear all that practical info. One addition from our side, the Invest Hong Kong offices in Europe, Berlin, and us in Brussels. In addition to all the expertise in Hong Kong, the overseas offices can give you a lot of information in the early stages and in the local language. Here in Brussels, we speak 7 languages, and I guess in Berlin, they probably also speak another 5 or 6. Good. Over now to our next speaker, Mr. Byron Lee, the Senior Exhibitions Manager of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council. For many companies, a first touch point in Hong Kong is a trade fair or an event, and one of the key organizers of trade fairs in Hong Kong is the Trade Development Council, and Byron will share with us how they're faring under COVID-19 and continue to help companies. Byron, over to you.
Thank you, Paula. Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just in case you're not yet familiar with the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, or Hktdc, we are the official trade promotion organization of Hong Kong with a global network of 50 offices in major cities and business centers around the world. Our mandate is to help Hong Kong-based companies, primarily small and medium-sized enterprises, to develop trade and business connections with the rest of the world. So enabling and promoting Hong Kong as an international sourcing hub is definitely a key mandate and a top priority for the Hktdc. So next slide, please. One key area of our work at the Hktdc is to connect manufacturers or suppliers with buyers. So this integrated marketplace solution you see here is a multi-platform service model that we offer to traders doing business with Hong Kong, comprising of trade fairs, product magazines, online marketplace, which is the hktdc.com sourcing, as well as the marketplace mobile app. This integrated marketplace solution is not only available to Hong Kong companies, but is also open to all of you, foreign companies that are looking to source or to market your products and services in the international market. And being from the exhibitions department, my key responsibility, of course, is the trade fairs, which bring us to the next slide, please. Hong Kong is the trade fair capital of Asia, and Hktdc is the leading trade fair organizer in Hong Kong. And we are actually the third largest trade fair organizer in Asia in terms of revenue generated from our proprietary fairs. In a normal year, we organize 37 world-class trade fairs in Hong Kong, and both at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center, as well as the Asia World Expo. In 2019, our exhibitions attracted over 39,000 exhibitors from over 80 countries and regions to exhibit, and some 720,000 trade buyers from 200 countries and regions, including 1,900 exhibitors and 48,000 buyers from Europe. And next, please. Next slide, please. Yes, of these 37 exhibitions, 10 were the largest trade fairs of their kind in Asia in terms of the number of exhibitors, and 5 of them actually were the world's largest in terms of the number of exhibitors, including our Autumn Lighting Fair, the Autumn Electronics Fair, Watch and Clock Fair, Gifts and Premium Fair, as well as the twin jewelry fairs in March. Next, please. I'm sure that all of us here have been experiencing various disruptions brought by the COVID-19 pandemic to our business and supply chain. And for the exhibition industry, the current pandemic situation, the global travel restrictions, and also quarantine measures, etc., have made physical trade shows almost impossible to be held, especially those targeting international participants. And according to industry data, and since the COVID-19 outbreak, already more than 3,900 fairs around the world have been postponed or canceled. And the majority of them in Europe, followed by Asia, and also a lot in Hong Kong, as well as North America. UFI, the Global Association of the Exhibition Industry, headquartered in Paris, also estimated that nearly $300 billion worth of contracts amongst participants of exhibitions had lapsed because of the event cancellations this year. But as the saying goes, every cloud has a silver lining. So in the time of the new normal, everyone is forced to responding and adapting to this new digital reality, to echoing Anson's presentation. And that includes the Hktdc as well. Next slide, please. For the Hktdc, of course, the safety of our fair participants has always been our top priority. So in line with the public health measures implemented by the Hong Kong SAR government, around 40 trade fairs, conferences, and promotional events originally set to be held in or outside Hong Kong by the Hktdc have been rescheduled or reformatted into online events. The Hong Kong TDC Summer Sourcing Weeks Go Online, which took place during the end of July and early August, was one of the virtual events we held focusing on sourcing. It's basically an online rendition of the 9 physical trade fairs originally scheduled in spring this year, covering the key industries of electronics, lighting, medical and healthcare, gifts, houseware, fashion, printing and packaging, etc. And what you see on the screen here was the virtual exhibition entrance of the Summer Sourcing Weeks. So some of you might ask, what are the differences between this virtual exhibition and the regular Hktdc.com sourcing website? So a quick, simple answer to that would be the Hktdc.com sourcing website is designed and positioned as a year-round online marketplace with a massive listing of over 130,000 suppliers with millions of different products available for buyers to search or browse throughout the year. But this Summer Sourcing Week virtual exhibition, on the other hand, was a cross-platform solution encompassing not only the online marketplace, but other third-party platforms to deliver a more complete virtual fair experience to our users during the fair period, which features such as live webinars and a unique new business matching tool called Click-to-Match. Once a user, for example, a buyer registered and logged into the Click-to-Match platform during the virtual fair, he or she will be able to receive AI-generated recommendations on suppliers and products. And of course, the buyer or the user can also perform search and filtering to look for suppliers or products of interest, send instant messages, as well as scheduled and conduct real-time video meetings with the suppliers on the platform during the fair. So next, please. So this is sort of like a diagram that spelled out the key features of our Summer Sourcing Week and the Click-to-Match platform, where there are webinars, there are real-time video meetings, as well as tailor-made virtual meetings to be conducted online. And next, please. So in the end, during the Summer Sourcing Week, more than 1,300 suppliers, including 8 regional pavilions, joined as exhibitors, with over 13,000 registered buyers from over 100 countries and regions logged in to the virtual fair to source and to attend the webinars. And furthermore, over 4,500 video meetings were also conducted between the suppliers and the buyers over the 12 days fair period. Next slide, please. So these are some actual screenshots of the video meetings. Some of the meetings were arranged by our business matching team. So we actually had our colleagues both in Hong Kong and our overseas offices sit in to introduce the meeting parties and to facilitate the matchmaking, just like what we do at the Buyer Center in our physical fairs. Next, please. We also conducted a survey with both the exhibitors and buyers during the Summer Sourcing Week, and I'm going to briefly share some findings here. First, over 70% of the exhibitors said it was their first virtual exhibition ever exhibit in, and about 70% of them also consider their objectives of joining the fair had been achieved, including getting new sales leads and meeting new customers, promoting and launching new products, and promoting their company image and brand, etc. And for buyers, 80% of them indicated it was their first virtual sourcing fair, and about 80% also considered the objectives achieved, including finding new products and suppliers, gathering market intelligence, as well as gauging product trends. So next slide, please. These are some additional details from the previous slides, which I'm not going to delve into in the interest of time. So next slide, please. And in the survey, we also asked another very important question, whether the buyers would consider coming to Hong Kong and attend our physical fairs in the coming 12 months if the pandemic situation has been contained. And nearly 70% of the buyers said yes, they would still like to join physical fairs in Hong Kong because meeting face-to-face is still considered crucial to build trust in business and establish a long-lasting relationship. 46% of the buyers also indicated they will use both online and offline channels for sourcing in the future. And similarly, over 40% of the exhibitors said they would take advantage of both online and physical platforms for future marketing and sales promotion. So it is pretty clear that moving forward, whether as a trade fair organizer or as a trade promoter, we will have to adopt a hybrid online to offline model in running our sourcing trade fairs. I think it's not just Hktdc, but also probably a consensus among many organizers out there. The hybrid model is the way to go in the new normal. So while virtual events cannot fully replace in-person events, which bring in values of human connection and networking, the added values of flexibility and scalability of virtual events are just too enormous for organizers to ignore. So certainly this is going to be a big discussion topic for the exhibition industry in the next few years. Next, please. And to close, please bear with me for another 2 minutes to talk a little bit about 2 upcoming virtual trade shows by Hktdc. First is Center Stage, which is our annual fashion trade show for fashion brands and designer labels, which happens to start tomorrow, which is the 17th of September. This year, we have moved the show online, and we partner with Vogue Hong Kong to launch a brand new digital site, which will premiere 6 virtual runway shows globally from tomorrow until Saturday the 19th, featuring a total of 43 designers and fashion brands. The opening Fashion Hong Kong show is scheduled at 3 p.m. Hong Kong time tomorrow, so please tune in at centerstage.com.hk to enjoy the show. Next, please. And apart from the catwalk shows, I mean, if you are in the fashion business, you will also be able to find the designers' profiles, fashion shoots, concept videos, and interviews with the designers, plus another 200 exhibiting brands on the digital site. So for those in the fashion business, please also go and take a look. Next, please. Last but not the least, our next virtual sourcing fair, the Autumn Sourcing Week Online, will be held from the 16th to the 27th of November, covering 11 industries and categories, including electronics, lighting, environmental technology, watch and clock, eyewear, toys, baby products, stationery, houseware, as well as gifts and premium. So apart from the click-to-match and video matchmaking opportunities, there will be even more webinars and conferences you can participate during the Autumn Sourcing Week. So please be sure to register for your free account. And as a bonus, those who join the virtual fair and meetings will also be eligible for a travel sponsorship program for your next sourcing trip to Hong Kong, visiting our trade fair. So please don't miss this. And you can find the registration link and QR code on the final slide. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you for listening. Paula, back to you, please.
Thank you very much, Byron. So I understand that also in the trade fair world, hybrid is the way to go, right? Virtual
Definitely.
has definitely gained a position, but we continue needing live contacts. Okay, which brings us to our next 2 speakers, really. And we're now moving to where the rubber hits the road, or hearing the entrepreneurs share their experience. The first of our 2 testimonials is Mr. Hans Paulus, CEO of IGC International, a global player in branded merchandise, as well as a key sourcing company for a whole range of multinational companies. Hans, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Paula. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Well, let me bring you to our supply chain business model in Asia, which is indeed the practical way of using Hong Kong, using Asia. And on the next slide, I first like to introduce a little bit about our company. We are founded in 1956. Our revenue is nearly $500 million US, and with quite high number of staff, based in 46 countries with 52 offices all over the world. we are in a position to provide the services to our customers. And on the next slide, you just see a few of our customers. And I think most brands are recognized and known. And also when we talk about companies like L'Oreal, Henkel, etc., they have quite a few more brands they are dealing with. And I'd like to share with you some basic information on the next slide. What we are doing. Merchandise is a word you can go several directions. And we are not talking about a printed pen. We are talking about really high-level merchandise from design till production, because the products we are using for our customers are really a part of the marketing mix, and they should support their brand, and therefore be using really different type of merchandise. Consumer products, that's also interesting. We have a lot of knowledge about products, about regulation, and we are working for a quite a number of companies like Philips, for example, with the brand Avent, which are the baby products, and we take care of the whole production. And for L'Oreal, for example, makeup brushes worldwide, we take care of production. And automatically, then you need production. We are in the supply chain, we are an intermediary. We don't produce anything. We produce, in fact, creativity. We have 60 designers all over the world. And of course, we guide the processes for production. Therefore, China is extremely important as a country for production. But it has to be managed via our Hong Kong office, and later on I will give you some insight why. 78% of our products are coming from China, so that's quite a lot. If you see our revenue, our annual turnover, that a lot is produced in China. And on our next slide, Asia, China is extremely important for production. Interesting to hear and to read, especially in Europe, but also in the US, due to the COVID situation, that governments, but also companies, like to see a different supply chain. They want to bring production back to Europe, back to the US. From my perspective, from our perspective, probably in a few areas that will be possible, but I don't see too much competition compared with China. And the reason behind is very simple. First of all, you need resources to do the production, and the availability in Asia in general, particularly China, is of course huge. And you cannot have that competition overnight in Europe or in the US. The resources are in place. Competitive prices. We know that labor costs in China cannot be compared with Europe or with the US. So therefore, Asia is still extremely important. Perception of quality. In our experience, and we know that we have to produce very high level quality of products, and the awareness and the perception in China to deliver this quality is in place. So that's really something which is needed to have sustainable production, but also flexibility. If you need smaller quantities, if you need higher quantities for production, if you need new designs as sample, the flexibility in China is in place. So therefore, for us, it's still the place to be. And on the next slide, I'd like to go a little bit in more detail about the production in China. First of all, we have offices in Europe and we have offices in the US. We have designs, the orders coming from these continents towards China. And of course, in China, everything is possible, but you really need control. Especially for the sensitive products, you need 24/7 check. Therefore, we have 40 quality control people running around in China, visiting the factories, checking all the productions we have in place. We know that in Europe and in the US, but also in other parts of the world, we have to deal with regulation, product safety, environment regulation is in place, and we should comply with all our products. The brands on our products are quite high levels. That means we cannot afford any discompliant with our products. So everything will be tested and everything will be checked. And on the next slide, then we go back to Hong Kong. We have our office in Hong Kong, and for us, it's still the place to be to get the right people for this job. We have our management, we have the expertise of the staff, we can work out the financials, and it is in English spoken. It's very important to understand that Hong Kong is quite easy to set up a company. We have the one country, two system in place, and Hong Kong is the recognized city for business. When you do business in China, and not only China, because we are also working with other countries in Asia, Hong Kong indeed is a hub you can use to do that business in Asia. And on the next slide, we know that China is more open and more transparent. We have to be completely transparent to our customers with our supply chain. They know exactly where we are producing. We are certified to ensure quality of our supply chain. That's not something you can close your eyes. It's really transparency is key, especially for our customer portfolio. No hidden secrets. And therefore, Hong Kong is also needed to guide these processes, to manage these processes, because we are too far away. So our team in Hong Kong is very strong, and we will expand this team, but I will explain you a little bit later. But it's needed to jump into China. It's in fact impossible to do business in China the way we have the business in Asia. So on the next slide, it's interesting to see what's going on. First of all, we know that China, but in general Asia, is a booming market. We all know that, and we all see that multinational companies expanding their activities in Asia. The same for us. We are not just in Hong Kong for sourcing or in China for production. First of all, we started a year ago developing a specific procurement IT platform where we can create a transparency, where the customer can join that platform to the manufacturer and every stakeholder in between. So digitalization is something we already saw a year ago, and we are happy to see that we will go live with this platform within the next coming weeks. So that's very important. Secondly, our customers trust the company, and they asked for doing the business as well on the other side. That means that we will need a different expertise in Hong Kong. We will need salespeople, we need designers, and not just people doing the sourcing and the quality control. So we will expand our office strongly in the upcoming months to have people on the other side of our work. That means that we want to service our customers also in Asia. And on the next slide, it's indeed that we are reorganizing the company, and as said, that we will expand our team in a strong way. So we like to join our customers, expanding their activities and business with support from our business in Asia. And on the next slide, well, that means that said we will expand our office, and we, in fact, what we say, we want to manage the supply chain from completely. So from design till the production and delivery and everything in between. And that's of course a great position we have, and for Asia quite unique, because when we talk about Europe and we talk about the US, we just manage the front end, which is designing, take care of production and delivery. But here we also involve the manufacturing itself, because everything is done in the same country. So on the next slide, yeah, I like to emphasize that the people we need to make our Asia operation very successful are available in Hong Kong for reasons mentioned, but also the fact that we as company, as entity in Hong Kong, we feel comfortable, and we feel that Hong Kong is really the hub to provide these services throughout the organization in Asia. And the same for our customers who recognize Hong Kong as the office where they can do business directly with our company. This brings me to the end of my presentation, a short presentation, but most important, I can talk hours about my company, but I really want to focus on the supply chain, of course, and Hong Kong. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Hans. And for all those who might doubt, no, we haven't paid Hans to say these beautiful words about Hong Kong.
No.
Just a little secret that I might divulge is that IGC is actually doubling staff numbers in Hong Kong. So thank you, Hans. Great. Which brings me to our second testimonial. That is Mr. Max Kronberg, the CEO of KW Commerce, a company with originating from Germany. And Max is gonna tell us about his activities in Hong Kong and mainland China. Over to you, Max.
Yeah, thanks, Paula, and good morning to everyone from Berlin. I'm very happy to be here and to share our experience of going to Asia and to China and also to Hong Kong. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think we can skip the agenda. Next slide, please, and just like go directly into it. I just want to briefly explain our business model. What we are doing. We call ourselves a marketplace pure player. So that means we buy products at the moment like 100% from China. We label the products with our own brands, so we have different brands. And then we sell these products on online marketplaces worldwide. So we sell, at the moment, our main online marketplace is Amazon. We sell in Europe, we sell in the US, but we also sell in Japan. And what this business model actually like sets apart from like maybe different models like selling on online shops and e-commerce, it's like really based on the development of private label brands. So with selling on Amazon, we can get like direct customer feedback in the form of reviews, a lot of data. So we use this data to better our products, to source our products. So we work with a lot of different suppliers in China and source these products from them. And next slide, please. So just to give you like a little overview of like what products we are selling, it just can be like a really small glimpse of what we're doing. So our main brand is Hktdc Mobile. So we started off like 10 years ago with selling mobile phone accessories. And we are quite strong in the market for mobile phone accessories. So we sell, as you can see here, we have more than 18,000 different SKUs. So for like hundreds of phone models and different designs, different shapes. And the revenue share of like this business unit for us is around 50% of our whole revenue. And these products, they have like really short life cycles. So we're adding around 200 new items per week, like 200 new items run it, and then we sell them. We basically ship them worldwide from China. Next slide, please. Hktdc, it's just like a small brand for us. With Hktdc Mobile, we are like in the low price segment. With Hktdc, we are more in the medium to high end segment. So we have natural elements like wood, real leather, not so many SKUs, very specific assortment. And it's also like for us as a company, like quite small revenue share. Next slide, please. And our third brand is Navaris, and Navaris is our fastest growing brand. At the moment, under the brand of Navaris, we sell products for kitchen, for pets, beauty and wellness. So it's a really, really broad brand. More than 1,000 SKUs, and it's growing a lot. We just started with Navaris in 2016. It's already like nearly 50% of our revenue share, and that's also why we source from China, because we have a wide range of suppliers. We can source really many products, different categories from China. Next slide, please. Just a few company insights. I think they're a quite young company. Like I said, we just started off in 2012. At the moment, we're around 300 employees worldwide. It's in our headquarters here in Berlin, and around Berlin, 200 employees. But we put a lot of emphasis on our operations in China and Hong Kong, with more than 100 employees at the moment, 120. Sell in the markets. Our main market is still Europe, around 80%, but like other markets like the US or Japan are growing a lot. And this year we will have more than 7 million end customers. So we really like in the we have a low shopping basket. It's a bit more than around 11, 12 euro. So we sell like many SKUs, like low price to a lot of customers worldwide. Next slide, please. How did we go to China, or how did we go to Asia and Hong Kong? Actually, we started off in Dongguan in 2015. Until then, we did all the sourcing by an agent, and this agent stopped sourcing, and so asked ourselves, okay, we need to set up our own operations. And so we ended up in Dongguan. And at the moment, like the functions we have in Dongguan are more operational functions. So we have our own warehouse in Dongguan with around processing capacity, around 50,000 pieces per day. It's like mainly used for mobile phone accessories. We have the merchandising for mobile phone accessories. We have a big QC team there. A lot of operations like order management and graphics. So Hktdc, like Dongguan, really like as our low wages operational hub, also in the ground in China. Next slide, please. So then why did we go to Hong Kong? I think I will explain on the next slide, but just to give you an overview, like in Hong Kong, our office is quite new. So we started off in 2019 in March last year. We just have like a few functions there. So we see Hong Kong as a managing hub, basically for Asia. We have merchandising for our Navaris brand, quality management, but we also have the sales function for ex-European markets. So we have a category management and sales function for the US market and for the Japanese market. They're not located in Berlin, they're headquartered, but located in Hong Kong. Okay, next slide, please. This slide, I want to explain you like why we chose Hong Kong after we were already in China, because we also have like some people asking us, okay, you know, we have like some of the sourcing offices like moving from Hong Kong to China. We are doing it the other way around, and there's like some reasons behind it. First of all, we see in Hong Kong, it's much easier to the talent pool is much bigger for merchandising support functions like quality management. It's much easier for us to hire a team in Hong Kong than in Dongguan. And we also see the teams, they need to work closely together with the teams in Germany, and it's easier to understand, like Hong Kong people, they understand both the Asian culture, the Chinese, and they also understand Western culture. And so the cooperation between the German team and the Hong Kong team is much easier. Also, we see it's very easy to do business. They like, you know, normal contracts. They're very short. They're very clear. It's very liberal, which also makes it very easy to business in Hong Kong. We have the free internet, which I hope is going to stay that way. Then we have tax advantages. You know, even if costs are higher in Hong Kong, if we take a look at the after tax earnings. I think the higher costs are like compensated via the tax advantages we have. It's the cash flow and also like cash managing with the international, the free currency conversion. It's easy. It's close to China, so when we travel to our Dongguan warehouse and office, it's quite easy with the new high-speed train. Just takes 2 hours. And yeah, last but not least, it's like great city to live in. Also spending normally at the moment not because of COVID-19, but normally spending a lot of time in Hong Kong. So next slide, please. Purchasing, just to give you like a brief overview, how's workflow going for us. So we have like suppliers all over China. We have the decision for the product lies with the category management, either in Germany or with the team for the US and in Hong Kong. Then the merchandising team basically in Hong Kong, they take over and they're responsible for bringing the products then like with order management, QC, logistics. We also use the Hong Kong entity to buy our products, and they are fully responsible for, after getting the specs of the product, to source the product and to getting it to the destination, and also having the payment. Yeah, we use the Hong Kong entity to buy from our suppliers. Next slide, please. Just want to talk like briefly about like the challenges we had because we just set up the Hong Kong office last year. In general, I can say it's very, very easy to set up the company in Hong Kong. Challenges also, if you maybe think about like setting up an office in Hong Kong. Bank account, due to like compliance regulation, I think it's like the biggest pain point of setting up. It's not setting up the company, but setting up the bank account, because they have like to do so much compliance. Then yeah, high cost of living, especially we also have the expats working there. It's yeah, generally the cost of living are quite high, but on the other side, like the taxes are lower. And also last year we had a lot of the protests and rallies going on, but from our experience, it was like, we were not sure how it will affect the business, but in the end we saw like basically it didn't have any effect on the business itself, and now it also like flowed off. We saw it as a challenge last year, but I think now we're very positive for the future. Next slide, please. Just to give you like a quick future outlook, what's our plan? So we're gonna expand in Hong Kong. I think our plan is like going like in the next 1 to 2 years to around like 50 employees in our Hong Kong office. So we're gonna yeah, even if we source maybe from other countries, we still see like Hong Kong as a sourcing hub. We see that like they have a critical eye on the conflict between US and China, because we also sell with our Hong Kong entity in the US, but for the moment I think we are also still positive, and yeah, going to invest further and going down that road. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so thanks a lot for your attention. If you have like any questions, you also just can contact me, add me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. Happy to help you. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Max, very much. Then without further ado, I would like to continue to the Q&A, and I'm handing over to my colleague Wing, who heads the Berlin office. Wing, over to you.
Thank you very much, Paula, and thank you very much for all the excellent speakers at this webinar. I'd like to now invite the audience to raise their hand at the bottom of your screen, and then we will unmute you. Please give us a short introduction who you are, and ask a question and address the question, and tell us who should answer your question. Do I see any hand raising at the moment? If not, maybe I can start with a question first. And I think one of the growing trends we witness now in the Corona crisis and the COVID-19 crisis is a huge trend to digitization and to e-commerce. And this question is maybe directed first to Anson from KPMG and to Angelica in Hong Kong. How do you see, or how is digitization shaping the sourcing landscape in Hong Kong? So me.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I think, as I mentioned in my presentation, I think that, if to be honest, I think fashion and sourcing, quite frankly, they are laggards in this regard in terms of digitization. And again, one thing that's happened with COVID-19 is that has accelerated the rate of digitization. So, as we all know, COVID-19 is a bad thing, but I think it's also been a wake-up call to industry wing in terms of now companies realize that they have to do things differently. They can't just do the same old, same old. And I think we heard from Byron earlier on about how we're now moving to this new virtual world. And it's also these new hybrid models where you do now need to collaborate, you need to co-create. And, you know, with, I think with business in general wing, I think absolutely one thing we are going to see, this new normal, we're already seeing the change in consumer behaviors. Consumers are not going to go back to the old ways of doing things. And I think we've now got to get with that program and understand that this is the 21st century, and equally, we do need to digitize our supply chains, and that's happening. I'm talking to a lot of senior executives as well, and absolutely, we're now seeing that happening. And I have to say, COVID-19 has been a massive wake-up call for a lot of these businesses. Thanks, Wing.
Thank you. Yeah, and because I think we got a very, very good testimonial from Max here. KW Commerce is actually the new form of bringing consumer goods to the consumer directly from China. And we see also here, especially we're witnessing here in Germany, a decline of the attractiveness of department stores. Yeah, so the traditional form of sourcing has changed. And I also, when I spoke to Max, he said he doesn't need to write off. He doesn't need to reduce his prices. Yeah, and a lot of I used to work in the garment industry, and we had long order cycles before, and it was always a guessing game. Yeah, you ordered half a year in advance and place the orders, and then if you hit the wrong color or hit the wrong style or the wrong sizes, you needed at the end of the season to write off, and that caused massive losses to these offices. And so I would like to ask Max, for instance, how the new normal is, how the digital form of doing business makes it possible to learn to anticipate and get better data from the consumer, that you will not suffer these massive write-downs.
Yeah, I think there's like several points which helps us with the data. First of all, when we source a new product, there's software where we can analyze Amazon. So if you even want to source some product, maybe some insect hotel, we can see, like, we can estimate quite well how the sales are based on like how the sales are of similar products. And once we bring the products live, we can forecast them quite well. So, for example, we go from order quantity to 1,000 or 2,000, and then we can see how sales are going and react quite fast based on the actual sales and based on our forecasting models.
Excellent, thank you very much. So, big data analytics is really happening and helping companies to be more efficient and actually more profitable. But now I got a question from the audience, from George Amalan. Lisa, if you like to unmute George, please, over to you, Mr. Amalan.
Good
You are
morning,
now
everybody.
unmuted.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Excellent. Yes, good morning. I'm one of the team members of the Netherlands Hong Kong Business Association, and I must say I enjoyed the presentations very much. I have a question for Byron. It regards the online trade fairs. Byron, is it easy for new exhibitors people who have not yet attended or participated in a live event to sign up and participate?
Yes, thank you, George, for the question. It is not difficult for companies to sign up and participate, but I think the challenge for companies who join a virtual fair for the first time on the exhibitor side, I mean, they have to be quite tech savvy because they have to upload all the marketing materials, the product photos. They have to at least take good photography of the photos because that is your first impression giving to the buyers, you know. And of course, as the virtual exhibition, the technology progress, of course, there will be a lot more different solutions for suppliers to present, including they can have very fancy videos, they can have very nice photos, and maybe in the future, I think some companies are already doing it, maybe live broadcast, live presentation as well. So it's not actually, it's easy for them to sign up, to participate, but I think the preparation work takes very different forms. Instead of designing the booths or shipping your products, actually you have to focus very much on how to deliver a very impressive and attractive online presentation. And of course, for buyers, sometimes it's easier for them because they can just sit back in the office or even at home to do the sourcing, to do the video meetings. But of course, as I mentioned, around 80% or 70% of our buyers that we have interviewed, that we have surveyed, actually they prefer when we can resume our physical fairs, they very much want to come back to the physical fairs because for some of the products, actually it's very difficult to discuss the product features online without touching or seeing the actual products itself or seeing an actual demo. So this probably the way we have to go forward to have the hybrid model. So people can do the online part for the preparation and then in preparing for the actual in-person meeting or visit to a physical trade fair.
Thank you, Byron.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I have one follow-up question, please?
Sure. Please, George.
Byron, is there some kind of checklist available for people who are interested in becoming an online exhibitor?
Sure, yes, definitely. Once a company sign up as an exhibitor, we actually will have a very detailed menu as well as tutorial videos to guide them through the process. Actually, we are upgrading our own system as well. As I mentioned before, this is a multi-platform service that we are offering in the virtual exhibition. So we are also updating our menu and procedures and also tutorial materials for companies that are, participating in the virtual fair for both the exhibitors and buyers. So no problem. And because we also have the 50 overseas offices, so for foreign companies joining as an exhibitor, we are also offering support to you on the ground. I mean, in your home country, hopefully, if we have our office there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excellent, Byron. And I think now we learn that there are really pros and cons to all these virtual events, and this speeding up of the digitization process. And we have to learn which products and which operations can we do online and virtual and which cannot be, so we can distinguish in advance. But now we got a question from our good friend Franz Rösler, the Austrian Trade Commissioner based in Hong Kong. So please unmute Franz.
Actually, thank you, Wing. Very good seminar. Of course, my question was a little bit similar, actually, to Brian as well. I also miss all the physical events. So at the moment, I think from all the fairs at Hktdc, what's the earliest we can really plan at the moment that we think that physical events will be possible? And second is also for me, how can we really create excitement with the virtual fair? Is it still so important that we meet at a certain day and look at a virtual platform or a conference, or isn't that what you offer anyway all year round? You have such great, you know, platform, and they can find potential suppliers all the time. This is a little bit for companies, you know, how to tell them to register now for 3 days or for a week for this virtual platform.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner, for your question. For TDC, when are we going to resume our physical events? It's a hard question to answer, but we have already announced that our autumn trade fairs in October and also in November will also be reformatted into online versions. So actually we are now looking at the January fairs, which is 2021, the first quarter. We are still preparing for physical trade fairs, but of course, everything is subject to the pandemic situation as well as the travel situation, especially because our trade fairs in January next year are also trade fairs, which means both the exhibitors and buyers will be coming in from overseas. So we are assessing, we are monitoring the situation, and any changes we will be announcing them very soon to the companies, to our customers. And for the second question, how we can promote or keep the excitement for this virtual event, I think we are also learning for that, because this is a very steep learning curve, because planning for a physical event and a virtual event actually are very different in terms of the marketing, the tactics, the manpower resources that we are putting in, and also the budget, because the revenue we can generate it from a virtual event is very different. I mean, the cost structure is also very different from a physical event. So we are still learning, but of course we have to give ample time to both the exhibitors and buyers to get used to this system. We have actually, because we just, George just asked about how, we can prepare the users to get used to this system, the online system. I think it's the key that we have to give plenty of guidance, some hand-holdings, as well as like 24/7 hotlines or customer service to them, so that this is because for a virtual events, actually it can happen, the meetings can happen very late Hong Kong time, local time. So we have to step up our customer service and response to our customers. And of course, we do a lot of our promotion online now, including social media. So hopefully we can get some new buyers as well to come onto our platform to do business.
Can I interrupt?
Sure, please.
Sorry, Wing. And Franz, thanks a lot for those questions. What I was going to say, and Byron alluded to it earlier on, is this hybrid. We are going to have to live with digital. Yes, physical, I think we will go back to digital at some point. Everybody hopes. We heard a lot about revenge shopping. I think we are going to see some revenge traveling. But we also have to accept that in this new digital age, we are going to see all of these new digital tools. Zoom is a great example, right? And we're on Zoom right now. At the end of December last year, there were 10 million daily active users. At the end of last month, there were 300 million plus daily active users. So, again, this is the new normal that all of us need to deal with. And I think we are going to go back to, perhaps we are going to go back to some level of normal, but these changing consumer behaviors, I've spoken to a lot of my clients, and I think it's fair to say that we will not be doing the same level of traveling that perhaps we did back in 2019. Now, hopefully things will improve, but I think it's also fair to say that we also need to ensure that we do work in this new digital world. And we need to work with these digital platforms right now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I don't see another question from the audience. Maybe I have a question to Hans Paulus from IGC. You said before that 80% of your sourcing market is based in China. Yeah? And we heard from Anson before that there is a growing trend to diversification of sourcing markets. Yeah, not at least due to maybe the US-China trade conflict. And what trends do you see in Asia? Which markets are becoming more attractive now for sourcing? And how do you prepare and how do you ensure the sustainable supply chains along the line?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, indeed, we are on top of it. First of all, when there are signals from governments that they will raise import duties or whatever, that's mostly a signal things probably can change. It's important when you see the trade war with the US, for instance, and 50% of our revenue is from the US. Of course, we are focused on these elements, but changing a production from China to another country is not always an easy one, although I see in certain product fields it's happening. Countries which are at this moment increasing their production facilities, then we're talking about specifically Vietnam and Malaysia. These are two countries we see a certain increase of production. Yeah, as I said before, it's not something you can deal with overnight because the quality we have to deal with CSR, corporate social responsibility. We have to deal with these kind of elements due to our customer portfolio, and we have to be transparent. So changing a production from China, which is audited, which is approved, to another country is not an easy step, but it's happening, but not in the percentages you probably expect. So you see a slightly change, but not too much. Then we're talking about single figure percentages. That's one. Secondly, we also have to deal with products which are, let's say, sustainable as products, so recyclable, produced from recycled material, etc. This is key because our type of product, when you're talking about merchandise, is not, of course, the first need in your life. Consumer products is a little bit different, but for both, it's very important that we innovate and work on recyclable products, and also using the right fabric for these products or material. So that's key, and this is also something which is not always easy. So what we experienced that China is very flexible to step in these kind of processes, which is not the case in other countries so far.
Thank you very much, Hans, for your explanation. I don't see other hand raising, and in the interest of time, we're already 15 minutes past our schedule. I would like to give the opportunity to the panelists if they have anything that they would like to add. Otherwise, I would hand back to Paula and ask her to give the closing remarks. So I don't see. Yeah.
Okay, I think everybody is ready to continue with their usual business activities. So once more, a big thank you to our speakers, Fiona, Anson, Angelica, Byron, Hans, Max, as well as to all the supporting organizations and the participants for bearing with us for all this time. As we promised in the beginning, you will all receive the PDF of the combined presentations, as well as a link to the recording. In the PDF, you'll find the contact details of all of us here on screen. So happy to help with any further detailed questions you might have. Wishing you an excellent rest of the day and all the best for your business, and hope to see you again at another session. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.